Today's show is Ines Star with Anita Perez. Hello, Anita Perez.
Hello, Lilian Mustelier.
You came to visit to tell us a few things?
Well, I guess you could put it that way. We went to the Squaxons today to attend the powwow, and it was a wonderful time. The people were gracious and lovely. The artisans had beautiful crafts and wares.
We don't have a mic, my friend.
Oh, yes, okay. This is one of the few times in my life that I have been informed that I am not loud enough. Ha ha!
I showed it to you, now didn't I?
Yes, you did.
All right.
Yes, you did. But, you know, a lifetime's training
Yeah.
is not defeated in just a matter of a couple of days.
We saw a t-shirt today. It said, "Until I grew up, I thought my name was Jesus Christ," or go to hell, right?
Yes.
Programming.
Yes. Well, in my case, until I grew up, somewhat, I thought my name was Stop That! Or Shut Up.
Shut up. Isn't it amazing how things like that can sit, you know, and
Yes.
kind of follow us? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I'm more than grown up now.
Yeah, you can yell, hon.
Yeah, well, I don't... Do I really need to yell?
For this purpose, yes.
Okay, well, fortunately I have a pretty good set of pipes.
You do, yes. Last show you sang, so we know. Very good.
Well, I really enjoyed the powwow. I really enjoyed the dancing, the marvelous tribal outfits, the graciousness of the people, the fry bread. It was really fun. I had a very good time. And I thank you for making this opportunity available to me.
Well, you're welcome. Now you see, I'm glad you had extended your trip by, was it 1 day?
Well, 3 days actually.
Mm-hmm.
As it turned out, the original flight plan would have failed due to weather.
Anyway, you'd have still been here. You know, I planned for one powwow a year, and I planned for the whole year. You know, I have to put a little money, mad money, I called it, on the site and everything. And it just sort of coincided with your visit here. And it's always nice to learn new things, you know. So, what did you walk away with?
Oh, I felt so welcomed again by another facet of this society here. Though some of the people who were there were actually from all sorts of places, because they traveled from all over the country. This is a multi-tribe powwow, and it was really amazing, the diversity of people that were there. Native Americans are as varied as the ethnic groups in, say, Europe or Asia. Many of us grew up thinking that all Native Americans were the same, but they are as different from each other as French people are from Slovakians. They're really, really varied. They're as different from each other as Chinese are from Indonesians. They're all different kinds of people that were native to this continent. And they have all different customs, all different kinds of art forms, all different kinds of fabulous costumes. They're really just as varied as any of the rest of our population is.
Mm.
So, and what I learned today is that I have an Indian soul.
Yeah. Yeah, DNA tests now. DNA tests where we can actually prove, very far back how things are interconnected. And I would almost think that if you took one of those tests, you probably related to many of us. Especially the people you met in Washington State. We from different places, but we seem to have one thing in common, and whatever that is, you know.
All of us have red blood. All of us love our children and care about our families. All of us want to have good lives that have meaning. We have more in common than not, really. And as far as the DNA test goes, Basques are a bit different than most people, but I understand that Basque people have a lot of DNA characteristics in common with some Native Americans.
Yeah, that was sort of my point. Yeah.
Which to me strengthens the case for there having been at one time a true Atlantis.
Uh-huh.
Many people would beg to differ, but I think that it's very likely to be true.
Now you are a reader,
Yes.
so doing your readings, do you run into that Atlantis connection often?
Not often,
Not often,
but sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And what are your findings, if I may ask?
That it was true.
Mm-hmm.
That it is true. That there was an Atlantean civilization. Not so much that there was a single place called Atlantis, but that there was a culture in very early times that was very far-roving and well-traveled and covered a great deal of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And that civilization was Atlantis. Not just a single place, but a horizon culture, because it was very widespread.
I had a friend by the name of Gypsy Lee Hurley, and she always said to me, now Lilian, make sure you remember Atlantis is not Mu. And I never really understood that. Can you enlighten me, or is that something?
Well, there are legends that there was another place, another continent that disappeared, called Lemuria.
Right.
Sometimes abbreviated as the single syllable Mu, or Mu, depending on who you speak to, and that it was an even older culture before Atlantis that also met that same kind of end, that it sank beneath the waves or was destroyed somehow. I haven't really had as strong of information or sendings or receivings, whatever you would call it, concerning that culture. It may be that this has happened many times on this planet. That certainly would not be beyond the realm of possibilities.
Remember when we went to the studio and we interviewed Dan Bennett?
Sure.
If memory serves me right, he was reconstructing a star chart, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
A three-dimensional
Right.
star chart.
And when knowing what we know now, 2 light years and 8 light years and 100 light years is really no distance when we think of the size of, the galaxies and things like that.
Yes, the grand scale of
The
things.
grand scale of things. So sometimes I wonder, and I'm going somewhere with this, and sometimes I wonder, as many times as Earth has reinvented itself, if that's the case in other places. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's also very likely. Life is adaptable. That's why it continues. The secret is not the survival of the fittest so much as the survival of the most adaptable, the most versatile. Those who can change themselves according to changing conditions are the ones who will survive. Not the biggest or the most brutish, but the smartest and the most versatile.
Oh, today on the way home it was a very ugly day. Ugly, ugly. Ugly. We were talking about the animals and how they adapted in, you know, just what you said, to survive, where eagles live on skyscrapers and light poles.
Yes.
Yeah.
I personally have seen owls living on top of light poles, building their nests on top of street lights. We had, as a matter of fact, in my old neighborhood, we had a street light that never went out because the light sensor was blocked by an owl's nest. And I thought that was pretty interesting. You described to me how you saw a deer using a crosswalk.
Crosswalk, yeah,
He walked
absolutely.
up to the intersection and walked across the street on the crosswalk.
Now see, if I'd hit him, he'd have probably sued me. Well, it wasn't a him, it was a she. What do you call it, a doe?
A doe.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I've seen some pretty surprising things in the course of living with animals. I've seen my cats befriend possums. I've had dogs and cats who loved each other very much and were great companions. I think that perhaps when you raise animals in a situation where they are together with other animals that are not of their exact species, that they become more open-minded and are more ready to form friendships with other species, such as the cats that I had that became friends with possums because they were raised with a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Being raised with a dog made them open-minded, I think.
I've always had cats and dogs at the same time, except now I have a cat that sounds like a motor right behind me. Yeah, she got her motor running. Yeah. This is the third in a series of 3. We hadn't sort of planned it like that, but it kind of came out like that. Now you had another major event in your life.
Yes.
Several days ago. Would you feel free to share this, or?
Absolutely.
All right.
I have been ordained.
You can keep talking.
Yes, by the International Assembly of Spiritual Healers and Earth Stewards Congregations, sometimes referred to as SHES.
SHES, yes.
And I'm very proud to say that. I have been working towards this time. I've been working towards this time for quite a while. I didn't know that it would be with this organization specifically. I rather thought that I would end up becoming a licensed Unity teacher, or perhaps an interfaith chaplain. And I may still do those things, but this is another step towards a process that has been going on for a very long time. I've considered myself clergy in training since probably about the age of 10. So
some of the friends might ask, how do you combine that with your belief system? If you don't mind answering that for me.
I don't mind in the least. My beliefs have been evolving for a very long time. As I've grown and learned more, and explored more, of course I've changed. Change is really the only constant, as you yourself have said many times. And I'm no exception to that rule. I've changed. I grew up in a very staunchly Christian family. I was raised as a fundamentalist Methodist in the Methodist Church, which did not suit me at all because I found out that their mainstream beliefs do not include the belief that animals are ensouled beings. They do not believe that women are equal to men. They may claim that they believe in equality of the races and all of that, but they sure don't behave that way. And as I grew and observed what was going on around me more and more, watched the behavior of people, I saw that while many of these folks were very good people, entirely too many of them behaved in ways that I could not really reconcile with my own sense of ethics. There was no respect for nature, there was no respect for animals, and there was very little respect for women who were expected to produce children and do what they were told and shut up. And that just would not fly for me. I discovered Wicca when I was about 18 years old, and I made my year-and-a-day pledge secretly, actually, because my parents were so firm in their beliefs that they would have probably killed me, or at least maimed me, if they had known what was going on in my mind. I had to wait until I actually went away to college to be more open and start really researching what I could about the origins of Wicca, the origins of what now might be considered neo-paganism. I completed my year-and-a-day the day after my 19th birthday. And that was the same time that I started reading tarot cards. To me, the two are very linked. For me personally, that is not necessarily true for everyone. I don't see any sort of conflict between this and joining She's and becoming ordained. To me, this is a very natural process, and they are inextricably linked. You don't have to be a neo-pagan to join She's. You can be anything you darn well please. The main thing that they're concerned with is that you be ethical in your behavior.
I'm also non-denominational, and do weddings and funerals and things like that, yeah, and so, but anyway, I was just wondering, how, because sometimes people want to know. I know when I registered the Temple of High Strangeness, I ran into problems at the licensing department. The lady there, she wanted me to can't say that word, narrate exactly and specify what it is that I did. Well, in a way, it wasn't her business. She was there to accept the documents and things like that. So a gentleman behind me finally said, "I want to go to lunch, lady. Just fill out just stamp the damn paper," he said. But she had such a problem because it was something that she wasn't quite used to, and she wanted to bend it into something that it really wasn't. Yeah.
A lot of people have a very difficult time moving past their early training.
Very, yeah. I think that's where we were going with that. Yeah.
And I should clarify here that I have no quarrel with Jesus.
Neither do I.
Okay? But the thing is that a great deal of the words, as a matter of fact, all of the words that were put in his mouth were written down by people centuries after anyone who could have possibly known him were dead.
Yeah.
Everything was passed on by word of mouth and then was manipulated through constant censorship and editorial, well, editing, according to the political advantages of whoever was doing the editing.
Mm-hmm. And to remind you, we are politically and religiously neutral. So we just state an opinion here. Okay, so you can embrace a lot of new things now?
Yes. It basically legalizes the things I was doing anyway.
Anyway. Yes.
And it gives me the authority to perform ceremonies for people who need them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great thing. That's a lovely advantage. I'm perfectly willing to work for people of any faith as long as their behavior is ethical and they treat each other well and honestly and are respectful during whatever procedure is being performed.
Mm-hmm. And then we celebrated.
Yes.
You want to talk about the champagne?
Yes, we drank a bottle of champagne that was from...
When I was very young, I went to school in Germany in a place called Wiesbaden, and a part of Wiesbaden is called Biebrich. And in that part of town there is a very large castle, and they have a winery with it, and it's called Schloss Biebrich. Well, I walked into Trader Joe's one day, and lo and behold, there was champagne from that castle. And I remember, I don't know how old I was, but we used to go over there, and they would allow us to stomp the grapes. So I thought that was a little unusual. So of course I ran up there, and we got a bottle, to make it special.
Yes, and we chilled it and drank it.
Yeah.
Immediately after the rather short and informal procedure
Yeah.
that ended up in my ordination.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it thoroughly.
And it's been storming and just storming. Now, we're going to put an insert in here. Anita, you got some really good pictures, even though they're dark, a little darker than what you used to. And here's why. Inside the lightning was different, and outside it was storming. So you see 3 shades of black out there, which would be clouds, you know what I mean? But we thought we would show them to you anyway, and so you get an idea what her last official day in Olympia was like. So would that be okay with you, Anita?
I think that would be great. I'll pick out a selection of the photos of the powwow that showed the fancy dancers and the wonderful costumes and the graceful movements, in as much as a still photo can do that. And also, we had a surprise. When I tried to bring up the images, there was so little light in the place that the images were almost invisible when I brought the camera home and went over them and put the chip in the computer and all that. But when I brought up the light value, many of the pictures were absolutely swarming with orbs. Now this is an indoor venue. It's true it was raining outside, but my camera wasn't wet. There were no sundogs. It was a very dry environment. It wasn't ambient moisture, I really don't think. And some of the orbs had curious I don't even know what you would call them. Patterns,
Yeah,
luminescence.
and then, you know, the attire of the people to go with that is
Yes.
just wonderful. Now, this tape's gonna run out if we don't put that insert in here and switch the tape, and I think it's time to take a break. Truth be told, I want a cigarette. I am still vibrating from the power, and I need to smoke, so I can calm down a little bit. But we only have a few minutes left on this tape, so
Okay, well, why don't you
insert it
stop
is,
it?
huh?
Why don't you stop it? I'll go get the bottle of champagne to show them,
That's a good idea.
and then we'll have some photos.
That's what we'll do.
This is the label from the bottle of champagne that we drank on the day of my ordination. Lilian thought that there might be an issue with showing an alcoholic beverage, but there's no rule that I know of against showing a label. So this is the label with the drawing of the castle right on it. This is a real place.
Anita's getting ready to show us some pictures here.
Here's a slideshow of the powwow. Dignified gentlemen. Fancy dancers. A wooden image. A very handsome young brave. This is the marquee for the casino with the announcement. Swirling grace. A friendly artisan. A beautiful lady. A triumphant dancer. This is the sign of the friendly artisan. Dancers waiting. These are jingling costume or attire. This is a totem pole. And these are fancy dancers once again. Notice the orbs. This is a fish eagle. And these are beautiful maidens dancing in white. Dignified gentlemen once again.
And there we go.
Thank you. This card is the star. It is one of the major arcana cards in the tarot, and it represents a variety of things, but mainly to me, it represents the sharing of knowledge that is gained from insight and wisdom from the universe. I have chosen to call my particular congregation the Inner Star. It was inspired by the tarot card, the Star, because this is my higher octave significator. When you read for a while, a higher or major arcana card will frequently pick you out as your higher octave significator, meaning the card that represents your highest purpose. And this is the card that consistently picked me out over a number of years, actually decades. There is also a system from analyzing your birthday and going with card correspondences to the date of birth that actually picks out your higher octave significator for you, and this is one of mine. It's curious because this card seemed to pick me out long before I ever knew about that system of choosing major arcana cards through the birth date system. And what this card means to me is knowledge that is received from the universe by way of inspiration, almost a form of channeling. And I am a kind of a hollow bone, in a way, that simply accepts the information and passes it on. that's how I look at the meaning of this card, and that's what I want to try and do with my ministry. So I called it Inner Star because I've internalized this concept and this purpose, and that's what I feel that I should do with my life and by my ministry or religious practice.
Oh, excuse me. I'm coughing to myself. Keep talking, please.
I feel that as a clergy person, it's partly my responsibility to pass on the knowledge that I receive from the universe. I also feel that it's part of my function to try and comfort people and provide them with help in any way that I can.
You also teach?
Yes, I teach how to read tarot.
Yeah.
I have also taught things such as magical herbology and magic logic, which is the kind of thinking that you use when you design spell work and other different kinds of spiritual works. Did you have any questions?
No, I don't. No, let me see. And now we can show you, since I could wiggling it, the phone number if you need to get a hold of Juanita and all her information. And then I'm going to ask her to explain to you what else she does in case you like to get a hold of her and have some personal conversations with her. So here we are. I got stuck. I ran into a brick wall. I was looking for a bridge, but I had a wall instead. So Anita, tell me please, or tell us, how come you have so many decks of cards?
Well, I started out as a collector, and it seemed that every time I turned around, some fabulous artist was coming up with a new deck. And then I found Facebook, and I started making friends with the artists who were designing cards, who are designing cards. And as I got to know more and more of them, some of them started to be interested in having me do reviews of their new decks, and sometimes not so new decks. I wrote a few reviews for Amazon, and I started actually asking people if they wanted me to help them review their decks as they were being released. And one thing led to another, and now people often send me their decks and books on related subjects for review purposes. And I look them over, I talk about them, I post about them on Facebook and Pinterest and various places on the internet, on Amazon, if applicable. And I say what I think. I talk about the good points and the bad points and the in-between points. And it's great fun.
Yeah, no, I get to read them sometimes. Now I'm going to be off subject here for a minute. When we went to the Power today, and we looked at the jewelry, and what I discovered, because of the quality of your work, you are totally underpricing your jewelry. Did you realize that?
Well, I like to think that I was pricing it kind of low, but you know, customers are not always honest because they're trying to get the best deal they can out of you, and even when they think that something is modestly priced, they'll complain because they want to try and get it even cheaper. So, and the thing is also, I had stopped dealing with middlemen, so I was trying to keep things really accessible for people.
Mm-hmm.
And also people often don't know the difference between what is really handmade here in America and cheap imitation stuff from third world countries where folks are perfectly content to work for $1 a day.
Yeah, now you got tons of beads in supplies that you bought, and so people can get a hold of you. And on your website there is it shows the type of jewelry you make, but I have known you to do special orders.
Oh yes, I will custom make things for people, pretty much work with them for any design ideas or color schemes that they have. They can send me a photograph of a favorite outfit or a swatch of fabric.
Oh, that's what you did with me.
Yes.
I got I got a lot of African dresses at one point, and I showed it to you on Skype, and you matched my clothes. I remember that.
Yes, and I can do that for pretty much anybody.
Uh-huh.
The thing is, though, that sometimes photographs and webcams don't show an accurate rendering of the colors. So when you're deciding to do something like that, compare what you see on the screen with what you're actually taking the photo of, and see how close it matches. Because I can only match what I receive. I can only match what I can see.
Yeah, it's like going to the store and you buy an outfit, then you come out of the store and it's a different color than what it was like in the store, right?
Right,
Like
yeah,
that?
because light will make things
Yeah.
look different. Something will look a certain way under fluorescent light and a different way under daylight.
So if let's say a person is to order jewelry from you, what's the turnaround on this? Is it very time consuming to make it, or?
It is very time consuming to make the work, but I usually try and give special orders priority. So I'll do it as quickly as I can, especially if the person is working under a time restriction. Like if they suddenly have to go to a special party or a wedding or something like that, I will really hustle to get it out of there on time and get it to you on time. The thing is, you have to try and be reasonable, because these things, I don't just snap my fingers and pop them out of the air.
Oh, you don't? Oh, why was I thinking that?
Oh, it would be so nice if I could, but it just doesn't happen that way.
But the majority of people think like that. It's just like when we do these shows, they think they just magically appear.
Well, it really doesn't work that way. It also depends on how elaborate the design is. If it's very elaborate and there are a lot of colors, a lot of beadwork, a lot of complex details in it, of course it's going to take a little bit longer than a simple design. And sometimes also you have to use a little bit more than common sense, because, well, for instance, a small pair of woven earrings with a lot of colors, like a rainbow design, is actually harder to make than a larger pair, because it's harder to see in a very, very tiny space. It's harder to really get the coordination and control in there. And people don't understand that. They think, oh, it's smaller, it will take less time.
Yeah, like baby shoes cost more than 12s,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
think of how difficult it is to get the detail in there and keep it looking clean and perfect, and then do it again so that you have a matching pair.
Matching pair. Now, I'm gonna switch subjects again for a minute here, because you do readings.
Yes.
So, and since you have so many decks, and if you could, what I want to ask you, how do you determine which deck to use for what person and why?
Well, I have about 4 decks that I use for quote-unquote regular working purposes. They're sort of the workhorse decks of my collection. And when I have repeat clients, which a lot of my clients actually have been with me for many, many years, and they have a certain level of sophistication about receiving readings. They're practiced at it.
I accidentally turned you off.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Oh, where were we?
Yeah, we were at different decks and 4 decks, and then I was gonna make you snazzy, and I turned you off.
Oh, well, I like to think I'm snazzy anyway.
Yeah, you are. So there you go. So you have 4 decks to use.
4 workhorse decks.
Yes.
And then if a person is a little bit more experienced in receiving readings, I will sometimes use a more advanced deck that has special characteristics. Each deck has its own personality, its own character. Sometimes I will choose a different deck for a specific type of reading or for a specific personality of client. And it's also a kind of a seat of the pants thing. Sometimes you feel like you've gotten stale with a certain deck, so you want to sort of freshen things up, give yourself a little bit of psychological fresh air, if you know what I mean, by switching to a deck that you haven't looked at for a while. Clients will also sometimes request certain decks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because they're their favorite.
Well, you don't get that with me. It's one for all.
Well, it's not for every reader. Some readers like to use the same deck all the time.
You know what I find really hard? When I have somebody come that understands that looks at the cards, and then in their mind, and I do the same thing. I have people come, they say, "Can I practice?" And then they tell me what they perceive. But I'm looking at the cards, and I'm thinking, oh no, because I'm trying to make my own interpretation, because each person is individual,
Right.
So it's hard to read for readers,
Each person has their own interpretations of different cards, and they bring their preconceived notions to the table.
Guilty.
I admit that I have a tendency to do that also when other people read for me, but I've learned to back off just by virtue of having students practice on me so much. And by the way, let me just say that one of the reasons why I teach is so that I know that I can always get a decent reading.
Oh, wow. Now, okay, today I uploaded the first show, and it's called Facebook Friends Are Real Friends.
Yes.
And while I was looking for something, I ran into a lost interview I have with Adam Curry. That was done in 2004, and he was so young. And one of the things we talked about was that we get a little older and we need people to take our place, and how did he perceive his future? I like for you to know he has done everything he said and proceeded, and that's, by the way, you can find that on YouTube. So sometimes the young people, we feel better when we teach them something, so we know there is somebody take our place one day, right?
Yes, and I have also considered that, but frankly my main motive is somewhat less elevated. I wanted to always be sure that I had somebody who was very competent and very insightful.
Competent, yeah.
For when I need a reading. And when I don't have...
That's wicked, Anita.
And when I don't have the objectivity to read for myself.
Yeah. I
You
can
see,
do it for myself either.
I always, well, sometimes I do, but there are times with specific questions that I realize that I do not have the objectivity to see it clearly.
And we can't do lotto numbers.
So no
You know,
lotto numbers,
yeah.
no sporting event results, no results of races or anything. No, I don't do it. I won't do it.
I won't do it either. I don't get in the
No.
middle of people's relationships either, and I'm going to flip it again. You have a good relationship, you have to smell good.
Yes.
In part, yeah. But you all... Oh, and we're sending home a camera with you so you can actually film some of the stuff that you make.
Yes.
On the computer, it's so small you can't see it. So you can actually show us how you make your, I can't say that word, tinctures?
Yes, tinctures.
Tincturen, yeah.
Tinctures.
Tinctures, yeah.
And
It'll be
lotions
fun.
and jewelry projects.
Yeah.
Let me say something about the crafts that I do and why they are related to the spiritual pursuits.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
Everything that I do, I try to charge with intent. Everything that I do, I try to make part of a spiritual purpose. I don't necessarily dedicate it to a specific deity or pantheon or belief system. I just try to charge it with the intent that makes that thing the best it can be for the person, to satisfy their needs, to make them happy, to perhaps be the solution to a problem they have. Like if they have a difficult outfit to match, I can usually match almost anything. So when they haven't been able to find that perfect pair of earrings or that perfect bracelet that really, really goes with that outlandish color combination that nobody else thinks will work, I can usually do it.
You know, the way I found you on Facebook, we have a mutual friend, Leah Shapiro.
Yes.
And when we have musicians and you know, designers and people like that in our group, you would think that they would wear the things that you make, and I really assumed that that was your connection there, but as it turned out, it wasn't. But it got me you. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I'm very glad it did.
Yeah.
And Leah is a good friend. She owns several pairs of my earrings, as a matter of fact.
Oh, she does?
Yes.
Okay, I have to apologize,
No.
Leah. Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's I thought you was one of her designers. That's how, I didn't say this right, but I thought you was one of her designers for.
Well, as it turns out, I am.
I guess so, yeah. I guess you are. Yeah, no guess, you are.
And I make all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I make also skincare products,
Yeah.
soaps and lotions and salves and bath salts. I also make walking sticks and wall hangings, and I do faux finishing. Everything that I make, though, is charged with the intent to make this a spiritually enhancing item or product, so that you get maximum benefit from whatever it is. The earrings, the woven earrings, are done in rhythmic patterns, so that there's the magic of numbers integrated in with a combination of colors to make a very harmonious and yet spiritually charged, magically charged item.
So tell us how to get a hold of you, because we at the end here, just about.
Well, you can find me on Facebook under one of my fan pages. My jewelry is under Anita R. Perez. Spiral Logic is the name of my business, and if you look up Spiral Logic, it'll bring you to my jewelry fan page. If you look up Luminaria Star, it will bring you to my readers fan page. If you look up Aphrodite's Kitchen, it will bring you to my show that concentrates on women's empowerment issues. If you look up the Alchemical Artisans Alliance, you will find yourself at my fan page that talks about all my various video and audio presentations.
And if everything fails, call me.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and as you know, I find lost people.
And also, you showed my business card.
Yeah, I did.
At the beginning of this
yeah.
segment. So,
yeah. So Anita, it's been wonderful 3 weeks.
Thank you.
It seems like I'm at the end of the show here, but when you came, it was like you had, like, oh, there you are, you know what I mean? And so I'm really sad that oh, now you have to leave. But you're not really gone. We push that button and there you are. And
yeah, we still have Skype.
we still have, yeah, well, that's a whole nother show. My Skype doesn't always do what it's supposed to. But we have to go. Thank you for coming. Love you, and
thank you for
safe
having
journey
me.
home, huh?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Blessed be.
First contest on.